Episode number 143 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. My guest today is Stesha Reukauf. Stesha is a board-certified holistic fertility practitioner focused on aligning the body, mind, and spirit for optimal health and fertility for women. Through her work, Stesha teaches women who have been struggling to conceive on their own or who are at the end of the road of what conventional medicine can offer them to get to the root of their fertility challenges and create a holistic body, mind, soul practice to drastically increase health and fertility. So welcome to the podcast, Stesha.
Hello, welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell me, can you share your background and how you got passionate about natural fertility methods?
Yeah, like most holistic practitioners, I think it's such a journey, a hero's journey, right? Of overcoming
Yeah.
so many challenges and really seeking the truth and coming home to yourself. But I just briefly, in my 20s, I was your typical, very conscious of my body image, obsessed with exercise, obsessed with dieting and nutrition and just being perfect. And it led to so many hormonal imbalances and fatigue and depression and anxiety. I just felt like an endless trap. The harder I worked and tried to be this image of perfect, the worse I seemed to look and feel.
Yeah.
And that's really where my journey began, is reaching my rock bottom of adrenal fatigue and hypothyroidism and PCOS and all of these clusters of symptoms, and feeling like, wow, I work so hard at this and I have nothing to show for it. In fact, I feel and look worse than most people who aren't doing anything. And to me, that was the epitome of failure. Like, wow, my body must be broken. And so that really set me on my journey of wanting to basically ditch everything I knew about quote unquote being healthy and fit and and happy, and instead just really pursued this natural holistic health and what it meant to prioritize self-care and meditation and whole foods and exercise that felt good and not punishing. And that's where my journey started. As far as fertility goes, so once I became, my past is actually in engineering. I was a chemical and biological engineering at the time.
Wild.
Yes. And so when I started diving into this journey, of course, I was like, everyone needs to know this, right? Because I was healing my imbalances. I was clearing my acne, my bloat, my weight was dropping. Like I thought I had all the answers, right? And I just needed to share it with everyone. And that's when I pursued becoming a nutrition coach and helping women specifically with their nutrition and their body image and helping them transform just like I had. And so then we got married in September 2018. And that's when we started trying, I guess, not trying to not have a baby. You know how that goes.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And we actually got pregnant immediately. And here I am thinking, oh yeah, it's because I'm so healthy. It's because I prioritize this stuff. Of course it would happen so quickly. And I was pretty cocky about the whole thing, to be honest. And then we miscarried. And it was on our honeymoon, actually, and about 5 or 6 weeks. And my whole world came crashing down.
Wow.
And on the outside, of course, the typical high achiever, it's like, I'm fine. Everything happens for a reason. It just wasn't our time. Everything's fine. But on the inside, I was spiraling. I felt so much shame. I was so alone, so much resentment and anger. Again, that same story coming up of, wow, I do everything right. And yet I'm still not good enough. I'm still broken. Like this shouldn't happen to people who have it all together. And I think a lot of women have that same story on repeat when they experience they're, whether they have a miscarriage or whether they try to get pregnant and it's just not happening as soon as they thought it would.
Yeah.
This tape recorder of this story comes on. Yep. See, I told you, you don't deserve this. This happens for other people, but not you. All these old stories come up and they consume us, and it becomes our truth. It becomes our reality.
Yeah.
And this is how the infertility spiral starts. And so I was there for 4 or 5 months over the winter months in Montana. So it was just gloomy, dark, depressing. And when I came out of that, I realized, okay, this is more than just, pregnancy loss, right? I realized that the same theme is showing up again. And I started looking into trauma and the mother wound and father wound, and realizing, okay, I've got a lot of work to do on the inside now, because so many of us want to fix the outside.
Yeah.
And we always know, intuitively, okay, I know I have problems. I know I need to clear up the mindset stuff, but I'll just put that off till when I have time.
Yeah.
I'll put that off till later when I can really put my energy in towards that. And for me, it was here. It was now. It was my next rock bottom. Like, this cannot wait. So that's when I started doing the inner work, the trauma release therapy, and really healing those old childhood wounds, and releasing all of that old programming of, you're not enough, you're not worthy, you're not deserving. And on the other side of that is when I really dedicated myself to becoming a fertility coach, and a holistic fertility coach, because it's not just about the nutrition and the supplements and making sure our BBT charts are perfect.
Right.
It's really about tending to that mental, emotional realm as well, and even spiritual realm. And that to me was my next purpose of, wow, women need to hear this, because I don't want to see another woman have to go through what I went through alone, and not know that there's actually another side to this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. This is actually for you. It's not happening to you. And to have a guide through that, instead of taking 5 to 6 months to spiral, you're spiraling up, right? You're able to release and shed old layers and actually evolve into the woman, the mother that you want to be. So that's my journey in terms of how what I'm doing today just really lights me up. And it's why I get out of bed every morning, and it doesn't seem like work ever.
Yeah, totally. When you're on the right path, it does not feel like work. And what's interesting that you mentioned, when you're actually going through it on your own and you don't have anybody there to explain what you're going through, because you're just navigating it for the first time, not expecting it to happen, it feels like you're so lost. And just to have somebody else validate that they've been through it and they understand what you're going through, and that it's not because it feels like it's forever when you're in it. You feel like you're never going to come out of it. But to know that there is a way out at one point or another, it might be a longer way, but to know that is so comforting.
Yeah, something so simple to have someone who has traveled the journey before you and come back and say, look, this is totally normal what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Just that little simple phrase.
Yeah.
And oftentimes women shut ourselves off to that because we keep it all hidden. We don't let anyone know that what we're going through. And so we almost steal ourselves from that opportunity to heal and connect.
Yeah. And it's also important to know, like you were saying, you were doing everything right with nutrition and exercise, but there's the other aspect of ourselves, which is their spiritual or emotional, which is such a big part. It's really kind of looking at the whole, not just parts of us.
Yes, you're so right. When we actually say a holistic approach, what we instantly want to say is like, oh yeah, we get to the root cause, we heal the whole body, right?
Yeah.
And we think physically. And that's a great step in the right direction. But holistic really means the entire realm of the human experience, which is, yes, the physical, but also the mental, emotional, and also the spiritual.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so important. It's just like you cannot, yeah, it's not a step to be skipped for sure.
And that's most often what happens. It's, well, I've done everything right. I've
Yeah,
done it all. I've done every
right.
diet. I've done every supplement. And when we look in, it's like, yeah, maybe you have done a lot of things, but how have you tended to your emotional self?
Right.
How have you tended to your thoughts? How have you
And
tended to your relationship with God, universe?
yeah, and it also it correlates with the other parts. We in the pre-talk you
Mm,
were talking about like food as medicine versus punishment. And that
mm,
also is a spiritual relationship with food and how, you have these spiritual relationships with what you do as well. And how to
yes.
look at it in that way where it's not a punishment, it's actually a healing source. Because we do, we could be very tough on ourselves. So talk about that because I thought that was
Mm.
very interesting when you mentioned it.
Yeah, yeah. So most women who are struggling to conceive think that, okay, if I could just be perfect with my diet,
Yeah.
then I'll get pregnant. And I get it. I fell into this temptation for years, and not just about getting pregnant, but also with my body weight, my body image, my athletic performance. I always use nutrition as this way to punish myself. And on the outside, it looks like, quote unquote, a healthy habit of tracking everything and being super meticulous. But
Mm-hmm.
on the inside, it's this battle of restriction and punishment and
Yeah.
obsession.
Yeah.
It looks something like I wake up on Monday morning, right? I'm going to start my elimination diet. I'm going to remove all the gluten, the dairy, the sugar, the alcohol. And, you tell yourself, this time I'm going to see it through. No matter what happens, I'm going to stick to it. And well, what happens? Friday comes around and your best friend is in town. And of course, cannot say no to going out. So you meet her for drinks, you meet her for pizza, and you fall off your perfect plan.
Right.
And in your head, you're beating yourself up through the weekend, through the next
Yeah.
week,
Totally.
because you failed. You're a failure, right? No
Right.
matter how hard you try, nothing ever works. This will never happen for you, right? Here come the stories again.
Yep. Yeah.
But here's the thing, food is supposed to be your medicine, not your
Right.
punishment.
Totally. Yeah.
And the only reason we're using food as a punishment is because deep down, we don't believe that we can actually succeed.
Right. It's that underlying belief.
Yes. So once we bring awareness to that, okay, so the real reason why I'm sabotaging my nutrition, it's not because I'm a failure at all. It's simply because I'm setting myself up to fail.
Right.
I,
Right.
I set these super unrealistic expectations,
Yeah.
and it's black or white. I either succeed at this by ticking every single box, or if I miss a box, I fail. And
Right.
so, of course, by that expectation, everyone's going to fail at that.
Yeah. It's
It's
unsustainable.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed. Yeah. So just become aware of that with nutrition. Am I using it as my medicine, or am I actually using it to set myself up for failure?
Right.
And the way that I see nutrition is use it as a opportunity to nourish yourself all throughout the day. Use it as a self-healing tool. Look at your food and see the energy in it and the colors and the vibration and the vitamins and minerals and everything you need to support your health and your baby's health. And you can use that for each meal and just a little reminder of, wow, I am worthy of this.
Yeah.
Food is my medicine, and it doesn't need to be perfect.
No, it doesn't.
No.
And I think there's something so powerful about like saying thanks before you eat.
Mm,
There's just this energetic connection with food. It really is a sacred thing. Food has always been throughout history a very sacred aspect of people's lives, and also brings people together. There's so many things about food that could be so sacred if we approach it that way.
Yes. And I give you permission to approach food that way, remove the dashboard eating.
Yeah.
And this is your first step towards self-care, self-love, self-compassion. You probably get this question all the time, Michelle, right? How do I love myself? I just don't understand like how to do that. This is one action to take to start implementing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And also thanking yourself, right, for every aspect that your body is, how it's functioning. We forget that it's perfect in the way it's functioning, the fact that we can breathe. I mean, those little things, are big things, actually, that we don't pay attention to.
And going one step farther, too, what I teach my students is the symptoms your body is showing you are eloquent, like they're there for a reason. It's perfect in its design. Right. It's here to bring you a message versus, oh my gosh, this shouldn't be here. This means I'm broken. This means I'm a failure. I've got to fix it.
Yeah.
How do I fix it? And instead of really just honoring that this symptom is here to show us, I think, somewhere in our
symptoms are actually very intelligent.
Yeah. Yeah. And somewhere in our grandmother's generation, I think, or even before, that wisdom of women's bodies was just lost. Like it didn't get passed down to us. And we're just wandering into womanhood, ashamed, alone, vulnerable. And we have no idea what these symptoms mean, and our moms, God bless their hearts, take us to the doctor and we get put on birth control, and the symptoms are gone. There, you don't need to worry. And instead of supporting us and teaching us what our bodies are doing, what it means, and how to care for them when they are showing symptoms.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we've all been there. I feel like a lot of us have, where we see our discharge mid-cycle and not know what that means when we're younger and think, oh my God, something's wrong. I have discharge.
Right. And not knowing that this is actually a beautiful sign.
This is something that people want.
Keep this going.
For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, Michelle, overall mission, right, is, gosh, if we can keep teaching women about their bodies, they'll feel so empowered, not only to disconnect themselves from that disempowered victim state of, I don't know what my body's doing, I just need to outsource to a doctor and get a prescription and make it be quiet. We're reversing that. And so that the next generation, hopefully, is walking into their women's bodies empowered.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, totally. 100%. And we spoke also about another shift that you're saying pre-talk about balancing your hormones. So people come in and talk to you and say, I need to balance my hormones. My hormones are imbalanced. And you were mentioning how it's so much more than that.
Yes. So the question that I'll always ask, a woman who is wanting help with trying to conceive is, okay, what do you think is your number one obstacle keeping you from achieving this? And 9 times out of 10, she'll say, well, my hormones are imbalanced. I just need to balance my hormones. And look, most of these women they're go-getters. They're high achievers. They've played every play in the playbook.
Yeah.
And what I'll see them oftentimes doing is try to spot treat their hormonal imbalance with an herb or a supplement. For example, they'll know that, okay, I have low progesterone, right? So I've been taking Vitex, or I know I have high estrogen or estrogen dominance. So, I've been taking this estrogen detox supplement, or I know I have PCOS. And so I'm taking saw palmetto and I'm taking inositol. And so they're very aware of what imbalance they have, and they've done their research and they're taking the supplement. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with these supplements. In fact, I use them all the time in my practice. But the issue is that these women will be on them for months and months, thinking that they're actually fixing their hormone imbalances. But in reality, nothing's really changing, right? They don't really see a difference in anything. They might even get their lab tests run again, and there's really no differences either. And then again, the disappointment and defeat of quote unquote doing everything right, but nothing working comes up again.
Right.
And it can leave the best of us literally screaming into a pillow, like, what more can I do?
Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing, it's not about I just need to balance my hormones. It's actually about how can I stabilize my hormones? How can I rely on my body and leverage my body's ability to heal itself?
Yeah.
So it remains balanced, right? Instead of trying to micromanage and manipulate all of these hormones by taking
the little pieces and details, rather than seeing it as a whole.
Exactly. So the analogy I like to use is, when we try to spot treat these symptoms, it's like playing a game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
It's like, okay, I patch this one up over here. Okay, great. And then I patch this one up over here. Oh, that one raised its head again. Okay. And it's just constant, obsessive, and it'll leave you burnt out and frustrated because you never see a change.
Right.
Whereas when a client comes in and we do say, okay, yes, there's this hormone imbalance happening. Let's ask why. Instead of just jumping to the supplement, let's ask, well, why is that hormone imbalance? Because we just talked, right? Your body will show symptoms when it's imbalanced, and they're beautiful signs and signals. Well, hormonal imbalances is another one of those symptoms that our body's showing us. So why is that happening? Why is that happening? And oftentimes we'll see, okay, maybe if progesterone is really low, okay, well, if we're really being honest, we're really stuck in this stress, fight or flight mode. We've got a really high paced job. We've got this side business going on, and it might not seem like a lot to you because you've always been a high achiever. You've always been a hard worker, but inside your body, your brain is flipped onto survival mode 24/7.
Right. And that's actually a really important point that you're mentioning, because when we're younger, our bodies are forgiving. So we can give them those assaults, no problem. It'll bounce right back. So we're like, okay, we're fine. This is okay to keep going like this until, and then we're used to going like this to the point where we don't even realize that we're doing it in the first place. And then all of a sudden we're getting the symptoms. So we're like, where's this coming from?
Right. As if it's out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so that would be an example of low progesterone, right? That's the one that I typically see in high estrogen. Well, what would cause that? Well, many different reasons. Maybe there's an increase in environmental xenoestrogens coming into your body. Maybe there's an issue with elimination and estrogen can't get out of your body. Or there's an issue with liver detoxification, right? So so I don't just have high estrogen, it means something else. Right. And when we can optimize your liver detoxification, optimize your elimination, reduce the consumption of xenoestrogens, we just leverage your own body's ability to balance its own estrogen versus tinkering with it on the surface level, which gets us nowhere.
Right. Totally.
And so we go from playing whack-a-mole to flipping one domino. Right. And watching the whole thing fall into place without lifting another finger. And that's what it's like when you get to the root cause, you heal the root cause. It's very hands off. And also the body is interconnected. So if we heal one thing, you guarantee will heal many other things. And all of a sudden, okay, I don't have the brain fog anymore. I can concentrate. Yeah. I don't have the 3 p.m. energy slump. I'm pooping regularly. So it's a magical thing. And it's the shift that I wish all women, would really embrace at even the beginning of their fertility journey, even if they're not even showing any symptoms. Just really understand how the body works.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it is something that once you do get to the solution, it actually is always the most simplest. The real like strong solutions that really get it are actually the most simplest and effortless, believe it or not. It seems to us that it has to be the hardest, and of course it is hard to be a detective and figure things out, and you do have to put effort, of course, but a lot of times it's the most simplest. It really is. Sometimes leaving a job or moving or getting out of certain relationships or creating boundaries, things like that, all of a sudden people start to get symptoms resolved.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's that one domino that could change everything in your life. But why is it so hard? It's this identity that we're attached to, and we're resisting that unknown and the uncertainty, right? We know what it's like to be here, to be in this job, to be with this person. Oftentimes we're reliving that childhood trauma experience, right? We're just recreating the old. And to branch out from that, it's scary. And our brain doesn't like scary. It likes known. It likes the safe. So yeah, it can feel like I'm being pushed off a cliff right now just by removing dairy in my diet. And yeah, and having support around that is just so key.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so talk about how, and I love this because you were talking about this earlier as well, is in the pre-talk before we started recording, is about how fertility journey could be an opportunity. And it's not something that's happening to you, but happening for you. And I know that sounds like very hard to grasp when you're in it. But I do see what you're saying. And I think a lot of people, once they've passed it, like once they can look back, they actually see it a lot more clearly.
Yes. Yeah. And what I try to instill in my clients is this from the beginning, just planting seeds. And I don't expect them to really embody this right away, but I plant the seed because I trust that they will come to this. They will come to this in the exact right time.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by choosing to see your fertility journey as an opportunity. So this is a big one, and it takes a lot of spiritual awakening, spiritual growth. What I found is, women who have been on the spiritual path longer seem to grasp this a little bit quicker. People like me who are very hard-headed and resistant and have a big ego protector.
I think all of us at one point, are resistant until we finally are not.
Exactly, until you're broken and there's nothing left for you, to believe in that story anymore. But just take it from me, like I was the biggest resistor of all. And I think that's why I see the importance of passing this wisdom on, is that, most women struggling to conceive are these high achievers, perfectionists. Mm-hmm. And anything they've ever wanted in life, they've learned that if they just work hard enough, they'll achieve it.
Right.
And when they decide to get pregnant, it all comes to a halt.
Right.
Whether it doesn't happen exactly when they want it, or if they experience a loss or a miscarriage, it comes up in their brain as the ultimate failure. And this is what we've been running from our entire life.
Right.
So let me explain that a little bit. In childhood, we learn these programs, we learn how to be in life. And a lot of us had parents who loved us so much and wanted to see us succeed. And so they instilled in us a very hard work ethic, be proud of what you do, whatever you do, work your hardest at and be the best at it, these types of rules. And our little childhood brain says, okay, so in order for daddy to approve of me and to, give me a high five and to stop and look at me, I need to get an A in my report card. Mm-hmm. Or I need to be, I need to be the starter in the sports event. I need to be XYZ. I need to show up in a certain way. And if I don't, then I don't get the approval. I don't get the love. And our rational brain, well, we don't have one when we're
Right.
6, 7,
It's
8.
true. That's such a good point. We don't.
Don't
You
have one to
know,
say,
yeah.
oh, daddy just wants me, to really succeed in life. He loves me no matter what.
Right.
No, our childhood brain says, I need to be this way or I don't get dad's love and I'm a failure.
Yep.
So we carry this belief on through high school, through college, through our career. And it's worked. Like in our Western culture, it works. We
It
get the
does
promotion.
because then you have those, employers
Mm-hmm.
who give you those bonuses, like you just said, promotions, and expect you to stay up until 1 a.m. at certain times to meet deadlines. Because I've been there in New York City, there's no end to it. Zero. You just can't be the best, because if you're the best, you're like no sleep whatsoever. You're done.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's this same approach that we take into our fertility journey.
Yeah.
And fertility, unfortunately, doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's completely backwards.
Right. It needs nurturing.
It needs nurturing. It needs trust. You need to release control, embrace uncertainty, relax, let go, all the things that we were taught to not do, right? Because that would mean you're lazy. That would mean you're not getting stuff done. That would mean you're not achieving things. And so it's this complete backwards approach. And I believe that's why this story of infertility is so hard for many women, because it's not just about the loss or the inability to conceive. It's this entire self-worth story of, oh my God, I'm not good enough. This thing I've been running from my entire life subconsciously is here. I can't run from it. No matter how hard I work, no matter how hard I make my diet perfect, no matter how consistent I am with my supplements, no matter how many times I get my blood tested and show up and do my fertility workup, it's not happening. And so it feels like the ultimate failure. My body is broken. It's easier for other women to get pregnant, but not me. I don't deserve the happy family. Like all of these stories come up and they're circulating daily.
Yeah, totally.
Daily in our head. And this is where the shame comes from, because who would want to admit that?
Right.
Who wants to reach out for help and say, wow, looks like I'm not good enough. Looks like I don't have it all together. And so the opportunity here is understanding that, this is just a program that I was taught.
Right.
I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And I have this opportunity to shed this old identity, this old program, and step into a new, nurturing, loving, compassionate, relaxed, easygoing, trusting woman, mother. And man, that can feel scary.
Of course. Of course it can. And it's tough because, you're on the one hand leaning on something you can't rely on, right? Because you think it's going to work out one way and it's not. It's just totally backfiring and not working out the way you desire. And then on the other hand, to get to this point of trusting that, which isn't yielding any results, is a very difficult place to be, but interestingly enough, I think that also all of it serves a purpose. And I think you were mentioning before about how everybody gets to that time on their own. Every piece serves its purpose of awakening us. It just in life, every piece, every step, everything that you go through. And part of it is being in that state of despair and being okay with that. Like, this is what it is. This is where I am right now. And that is like perfectly okay. And I think that what happens is we tend to resist that. If we just allow every process to unfold the way it wants to and give it space and, sacred space and honoring it, I think that it moves a lot faster with more ease. Even the discomfort moves with more ease, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. And I completely agree with every single word you just said. And the way I want to give a tangible example of this, because sometimes when we hear this, like, okay, this sounds like a lot of woo woo, sounds great. I don't really like, how do I apply that? What does that look
Yeah.
like? And so for me, when I was going through this, and even in my career as a coach, that same story would come up of, oh, you're not getting these results that you expected, you're a failure. And it sounds so simple on
Well, you
paper,
feel
but when
like
you're in
you're
it,
taking a test every time you
yes.
go and, do anything, even labs or everything.
Yeah. And so I just want you to know that, who's listening, this story will probably come up many different times. And that just means it's a really, really deep root and it has lots of layers to it. And so just expect that. Sometimes when we heal the first round, it can be
Yep.
like, well, I'm done. I'm healed. I'm spiritual. I'm awakened. And then days later, the next one comes up, and then, you're revisited by, wow, this is never going to end. So just
Yeah.
expect that. And it's such a gift, just like the symptoms in your body. This is the symptoms of your spirit.
Yeah.
But what I will do is actually when I notice these stories come up in my head, the thoughts, right? It's the, wow, this is never going to happen. What's wrong with you? And take notice to that. And what I do is actually pretend it's this ego version of me. And I turn to her and say, you are right, and I'm scared too. And it's okay. I'm here. We're going to figure this out. I got you. Just like you said, shine light on it, notice it, acknowledge it. Don't repress it. Don't stuff it back away into the closet, right? It just gets louder. It persists.
Yeah.
And so I simply have a conversation with it, and I acknowledge her fears.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I start to laugh, right? Like, yeah, maybe I am a failure. Like, who isn't? I failed at this, I failed at that. Like, who cares? Failing's fun, and I completely flip the story by the end of the conversation, where it's this lighthearted, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was so up in my head about that. And so having a little conversation with that voice in the back of your head, instead of suppressing it, numbing it, that's the first step. And see if you can flip the conversation into something super serious, life or death, to, well, yeah, doesn't everyone fail? Like, if you're not failing, you're not trying, and just kind of have a laugh about it. So that's what I do in terms of like tangible ways of releasing some of these limiting beliefs. And there's a whole process where I take my clients through, where we're really going back and visualizing when the trauma occurred, when the limiting belief occurred, and actually reparenting ourselves in that moment to dissolve all of the story around what that event meant. If mom didn't pick me up after school on time and I was left there all alone for an hour, and all the teachers were really like embarrassed for me that my mom forgot about me, and I carried that with me, that, wow, no one cares about me, I'm forgotten about. You get to go back in time and revisualize that and face that fear and create a different meaning.
Right.
Of, no, you are loved. You are cared about. You are cared about so much. And you can literally rewrite history by doing some of these visualizations and releasing and shedding those old traumas.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is that we do have an opportunity. We do have an option. I think that that's something that we think we don't have an option, but we do have an option or a choice. Really, in everything, I think that's where our power is. That's where the power lays. I mean, it just kind of, it's in us. But sometimes you walk around not realizing that you have that power. And I think that that's like one of the, biggest key. And also, a lot of times I'm sure you have people coming and telling you that they've been told by doctors that they can't conceive naturally and need treatments, and or they're told whatever their future is predicted to them by doctors. I personally have seen that that's not always accurate. Sometimes it's actually like less accurate than it is accurate, just because the body's so mysterious and things work out somehow when we least expect them to. So people tend to leave identifying like this is going to be my future when it's not necessarily so. So I was just curious to see what you thought.
Yes. So I mean, I completely agree. I think I have full faith that the body can heal itself from anything. And I truly mean that. But here's the thing, like what you believe is true will be your truth.
Yeah.
So if you are visiting the doctor and you believe wholeheartedly what they say and about your prognosis, that will be true for you.
Yeah.
If you rebel against what the doctor is telling you and seek a different option and 100% faith in your body's ability to heal, that will be your truth.
Yep.
And it breaks my heart to see practitioners, because I know that they mean well and they want to see women succeed, but because of their indoctrination, they are unable to provide that for them. And it's almost like it's the nocebo effect, where they're planting the seed in the patient's brain of, you have no power.
Yeah.
It's in your genes, it's genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. We do have a way to manage it, and we could go along with these treatments. They're only this amount of percent successful, right? But it's really your only option.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, your only option, to be told that. And just to be clear, nocebo is basically, placebo is something that you think you're getting healed by something that isn't necessarily based in science. And then nocebo is the complete opposite, where you believe that you're not able to overcome or heal.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And it goes deep into quantum physics and the observer effect. If you want to look in more, it's not woo. It's actually very scientific. It's measurable. I'm trying to say woo versus science less and less, because the woo is all there is. And science is sometimes just this illusion of control that we have the answer, but
absolutely. Well, because science can't possibly, science can't possibly keep up with all there is. No. So they have a fraction. And if you want to believe just the fraction, that's a choice. But, logic tells you, and even science tells you, that it is just a fraction. And it's constantly changing, actually. So, there's just so much more.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's the ultimate message, is tap into what your intuition is telling you. If you have this inkling of what that doctor said doesn't feel right, trust in that and continue to seek alternatives, and if you do trust in that, go all in on that. And this is your journey, this is your experience. But if you feel that urge to go deeper into the mental, emotional, the spiritual, you're like, yep, I've done all there is with nutrition and the physical, everything looks normal, all my blood tests check out. That's my invitation, is this is your sign from the universe, go deeper into that emotional world. And it's going to be challenging, and you're going to have to face yourself, but on the other side of it is every single thing you've ever wanted or desired.
I love that. That's beautiful. And sometimes it means actually going to a different doctor. Some doctors are actually very optimistic, and they really do kind of open up. My husband's a doctor, and he tells me that he sees it just in his own practice. He does emergency medicine, which is the creme de la creme of Western medicine. That's like what they're really amazing at. That's where their light shines the brightest. And he said, like, there are some doctors that just don't want to say, I don't know. And then there's some doctors that want to keep investigating and do want to see what else there is and won't put like a cap to it. So there are, sometimes just shifting that is just getting up, like trying out different things is the best thing. And totally agree with you. Your intuition is so intelligent, and it always gives you that nudge. So I think you're right. You really need to pay attention to what your body is telling you.
Agreed. Yep. End of story.
Yep, totally. That's it. So for people who want to find you, work with you, how can people find you?
Oh, well, thank you for that. Instagram is where I'm most active. I'm on there daily in my stories, writing a ton of posts. And that's where you can find a lot of my resources as well. So that's Stesha.Reukauf. When you click the link in my bio, there's a place to get on the wait list for our next group cohort. Holistic Fertility Method is our 90-day coaching program designed to more than double your fertility in 90 days. And we go deep into the nutrition. We go deep into the mental, emotional, as well as spiritual. So very holistic approach in 90 days and supported by an amazing group and myself. So please get on the wait list if that sounds like something you would like to see more of, or just come hang out on Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, Stesha, this was so much fun. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm so glad we connected. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, you're so welcome. We'll have to do another one.
For sure. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.